Good morning. It is Thursday, April 16, 2026. This is your deep dive daily briefing. I am your anchor, delivering a comprehensive analysis of the pivotal events that have defined the last 12 hours. We begin our broadcast on the world stage, where the strategic landscape of the Middle East has entered its most critical phase following the expiration of the diplomatic window in Islamabad. Overnight, the United States Navy has officially commenced the active enforcement of a maritime blockade surrounding major Iranian ports. This operation, authorized under a directive from the White House, aims to neutralize Iran's ability to coordinate asymmetrical maritime strikes while the Strait of Hormuz remains restricted. In response, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard has reportedly increased its deployment of littoral defense systems and naval mines within the Persian Gulf, leading to a de facto cessation of all commercial traffic in the region. Humanitarian observers have expressed grave concern as the blockade further complicates aid delivery to the Levant, where the number of displaced persons has stabilized at a staggering 1.3 million despite the absence of large-scale ground maneuvers.
Transitioning from the front lines of military enforcement to the broader global economy, the narrative is being dictated by the structural reality of a prolonged energy choke point. The International Monetary Fund has released a supplementary report following its earlier growth downgrade, warning that the persistence of the maritime blockade could lead to a permanent 2% reduction in global industrial output. Crude oil prices have reacted with extreme volatility, with Brent crude frequently testing the $112 per barrel mark as traders price in the total removal of Iranian and regional supplies from the global market. This inflationary pressure is manifesting most acutely in the European manufacturing sector, where the combination of high energy costs and redirected supply chains has led to a significant contraction in purchasing manager indices, signaling a likely recessionary entry for several major economies by the end of the second quarter.
In the realm of finance, all eyes are on the credit markets as they process the implications of this new phase of military and economic confrontation. The 10-year United States Treasury yield has surged to a new high for the year, touching 4.45% this morning, as investors seek to hedge against the inflationary tail risks of the blockade. This environment is creating an unprecedented liquidity squeeze in the private credit markets, where many funds tied to heavy industry and global trade are facing a wave of margin calls. On Wall Street, however, the defense and aerospace sectors have seen a divergent rally, as institutional capital rotates into firms with significant government contracts. Financial analysts warn that the mounting global debt burden, currently estimated at $315 trillion, leaves very little fiscal room for governments to intervene should the current credit stress transition into a broader banking sector contagion.
Turning our attention to the technology sector, the focus remains on the high-stakes build-out of sovereign AI infrastructure as a means of ensuring national resilience. Leading hyperscale cloud providers have announced that they will accelerate the commissioning of regional data centers in North America and Western Europe to bypass the vulnerabilities of global energy and hardware supply chains. This shift occurs as the demand for agentic AI systems reaches a new peak, with enterprises increasingly relying on autonomous agents to manage complex, disrupted logistical networks. However, the physical power bottleneck remains the primary obstacle, with projected energy requirements for these facilities still on track to reach 96 gigawatts by year-end. To mitigate this, several tech conglomerates have entered into formal joint ventures with nuclear utility providers to secure dedicated small modular reactor capacity, effectively detaching their core infrastructure from the volatile global energy grid.
Finally, we look at the logistics and supply chain networks that serve as the vital arteries of global commerce, which are now undergoing a permanent structural rewiring. With the naval blockade now in full effect, the maritime industry has officially declared the Persian Gulf a zero insurance zone for commercial vessels. This has cemented the Cape of Good Hope as the sole viable route for Asia to Europe trade, a detour that continues to add 14 days to transit times and maintains a high floor for freight rates. Logistics professionals report that 72% of trade volume originally intended for the Red Sea and Hormuz has now been permanently rerouted or transitioned to multimodal air and rail corridors. This represents the most significant shift in global trade patterns since the mid-20th century, as the industry accepts a new reality defined by regional inventory buffers and a total abandonment of the low-cost, just-in-time models that define the previous era of globalization. That concludes our global briefing for today. Thank you for joining us.